This is Kits and Wagers, the RotoWire Premier League betting show. I'm Adam Zdroik, joined by Chris Owen. We're talking Thursday night, so we got beers and wages coming off the international break. Chris, what's up? It's been a couple weeks, but we're ready to go here on a Thursday.
We are ready to rock. Just cracked an ice cold Adam's Pilsner brewed locally here in Yakima. I'm going to pour that one on. Usually, depending on how the week's looking, sometimes we get to do beers and wagers on Thursday nights. Sometimes it's a big cup of coffee and wagers on Friday mornings or Friday early afternoon. But luckily, I've got an ice cold pint glass here. Just pulled it out of the freezer, so we're going to get that going. I've got 3 bets. You've got 3 bets. I've got Thursday Night Football on the background. It feels kind of like destiny this week.
Feels like destiny as long as I can hit my single game parlay in this Bills and Dolphins game that's going on right now. But I got, I usually have like some real special local beers, some intense like 10% or something. So I looked in the fridge and I was like, one of my friends brought these over to me, but I got a nice little. This is an actual Canadian Labatt here. This is You only can get this in Canada. It's a 5%. You don't get the 5% Labatt. This isn't Labatt Light or anything. This is just full on Labatt, Canadian Labatt here. So that's what I'm rocking here. Rocking the Canadian beer. You're rocking the almost Canadian beer up there in Washington. So Canadian beers and wagers. We almost got there. We got game week 4 ahead of us. We got a bunch of stuff coming out. In terms of betting, we have my articles coming up Friday morning, and I also starting up a special show. I didn't actually tell you this. You saw the background, but I did a nice little corners and wagers, a separate show of I gave out 3 different corners bets. So in addition to my article, in addition to this show, I have 9 bets for the people this weekend. I don't know how long that's going to last because it's a lot of bets to have on 10 matches every weekend, but that's what we're doing here for the people over at RotoWire Soccer. So a lot of betting content coming at you, but you excited for corners and wagers?
Well, I'm curious I got 2 corners bets this week, not to blow my bets here. So I'm curious if you took my bets at all.
Well, at this point, I already recorded it. So, did you take my bets or not? Is the question.
Is it public information yet, or is it released?
Not yet. 8 a.m. 8 a.m. It's going. Okay. It's going Friday morning. So,
I'll be like 7:59. I'll be absolutely locked in. There we go.
Yeah, 5 a.m. for you. You'll be locked into the
yeah. No, so 4:59 for sure.
Yeah. Here are the records. We've only had 6 bets here, but we'll just leave it for the people to see that. I'm 4-2. Chris is struggling along, but he revived himself over the international break.
Same thing happened to me last year. Slow start, and then I just put the motor down.
And then he came back with some wins. But the first match we're talking about, we're talking the first game is Manchester City are home against Brentford. Manchester City minus 650 to win. Brentford plus 1,400. Draw is plus 800. Not too many injury things going on. Some teams that we're going to eventually talk about do have some injury issues. These 2 teams do not. Phil Foden return to training. Savinho return to training. So those guys are back. I guess Nathan Ake picked up a hamstring injury, but he hasn't been playing anyways. So that doesn't matter. But Manchester City home against Brentford a few days before Champions League gets underway. But what do you think of this matchup here?
Yeah, tasty little matchup here. I was looking through the match weeks and I was like, oh man, I need like a get right bet here, as I have been notably struggling. Usually when I need a get right bet, I go to my 2 favorite teams to bet on. The 2 biggest favorites on the slate usually is Man City or Liverpool, 2 teams that I feel like we have a typically pretty good handle on, and we can usually find some decent bets for them. City's usually kind of tough given they're always like 2.5 goal favorites everywhere, and so I was like, all right, well, I can't go back to Liverpool. I already missed my bet on that one a lot. I think it was 2 weeks ago, and so here we are. We're talking about City Bournemouth. Interesting Bournemouth side now. Just given that lot. It feels like they've had a little bit of turnover in their talisman, and Tony's off to Saudi Arabia now, and so City feels like it's like mid-April. It's return of the year. They just haven't
mid-April.
Like this is the version of City we're getting right now. They look like they haven't even they're just like grinding teams down. They look like they're unbeatable. I think they're on a 31 match unbeaten streak right now.
Yeah, since everyone probably knows, but the last time they lost was this exact matchup from Brentford.
1-0 at the Vitality, I believe, last season. So
no, it was the game before. It was at the Etihad. It was the game before the World Cup, and Manchester City didn't really come to play. Like days before players left for the World Cup. This was in 2021? No, 2022. Yeah, 2022. So
22. Just last year. It's just a year and a half ago, whatever.
Yeah, 2 seasons ago.
Almost 2 years ago, whatever. Math, maybe not our strong suit. Anyways, cut to the chase, Chris. I looked across a variety of things. I initially was like, all right, can I get City on a spread? The -2.5 to City is +120, which is semi-appetizing given how good they've looked. I do think you could kind of maybe lean there if you wanted. I like smashing some overs here, but you're not even getting that good of odds on a 3.5. It's over 3.5 is -115. I would honestly, and then even worse is the Man City team goals. They're over 3.5. Like they're expecting Man City to score 4 goals essentially. The Man City over 3.5 is Man City and over 3.5, which is a same game parlay, is -120. The Man City over 2.5 goals is -155. So they just they're expecting 3 goals from City is essentially what I'm getting out of these from the odds makers. I'm going to go a completely different route. Looked at both these matchups last year and a ton of corners for City. City, so far, pacing decently well on the corners. They are second in the league with 24 corners won. Tottenham somehow has 13 more corners than the next closest club at 37, which I found to be interesting through only 3 games. They're like hacking in, what is that, 12 and a half goals a game, or 12 and a half corners a game, which is pretty insane.
Goals.
Albeit
12 and a half goals.
They played 12 and a half goals. Yeah, 12 and a half corners. They played some crap teams. But back to City. I like Manchester City over 8.5 corners is +100. You're getting really good odds here. They've scored 10. They've had 10 plus in the last 2 matchups last season against Brentford, and so far this season they're pacing at about 8 per match. I expect them to basically just dominate and hit a ton of corners.
I wouldn't call this really good odds. +100 odds to have 9 corners. That's a lot of corners.
Solid odds.
I have.
Also, we're gonna talk to our graphic. We're gonna talk to the graphic maker here.
Wait, what did you say? +105.
We gotta have odds. We gotta have a discussion with the graphic maker here as we got Man City West Ham up.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah, I did that. I did that with another game, then noticed it last second. I did not notice it with this one. We'll call that my mistake.
It's been a long day. You're coming to us live 9:15 your time, so
Man City Brentford. Yes, I agree with your bet. I have a couple in my article and in corners and wagers. I have a couple bets on this match. Kind of agree with you here. I think there's only one way this match goes, and this corner bet is kind of dependent on, is Manchester City, are they going to get a goal or 2 or 3 in the first half, or is the Thomas Frank defense going to show up and defend, which they have done in a lot of matchups. Thomas Frank against Pep Guardiola, this back line, they've been solid for most matchups. That's why Brentford have a couple wins against Manchester City in recent years. So I agree with this one. I think the corners will rack up as Manchester City try and press for that first goal and maybe for that second goal kind of thing. So I agree with that one there. Next game we're talking about, also, I think this is at the same time on Saturday. Brighton are home against Ipswich. Not as big of a favorite, but Brighton are -265 to win. Ipswich Town +700. The draw is +425. Surprisingly, over the international break, the odds have gone down a little bit here on Brighton. They were -295. Now they're -265. Unclear why that's the situation. They don't really have any like new injury issues that they're worrying about. Matt Weaver has been out the last 2 matches. They lost Billy Gilmore just before their last game. Didn't lose him. They sent him away. They have all these other guys, but it's pretty much the same guys that have been playing. Ipswich Town also added a bunch of guys. We'll see how they are. But do you think Ipswich Town could get a point here? Is this all Brighton here?
Brighton hosting? Am I seeing this
Brighton
correctly?
at home. Brighton at home.
Yeah, going to be tough for Ipswich to take points here. I think, just surface level, I feel like this could be an interesting game. Just like Ipswich has been, I feel like they're like in the Luton mold right now of last season. Like might be entertaining to watch, might play like a decent brand of ball despite the opponent, but they're going to be consistently overmatched, especially when they're traveling away.
Yeah, I think I've said that somewhere where Ipswich kind of comparable to Luton Town, just adding so many guys, but they probably added more guys in Luton Town than what they had in prior seasons. But I think this is like a must-win spot here for when you're hosting Ipswich Town and you want to fight for UEFA spots in the table. This is like a must-win spot. I looked at a few routes here, but I have a single game parlay. I initially wanted to look at goals, but I couldn't do a bet on Brighton over 2.5 goals. That was the only route to get me to plus odds. I didn't know, I do think they're going to get 3, but I think this one's a little safer. Brighton first half money line and Ipswich under 1.5 goals plus 100. So that's a first half money line, not full-time money line. You're getting better odds on it, obviously, first 45 minutes. Then Ipswich under 1.5 goals at plus 100. A similar route you could do is Brighton over 2.5 goals and then under 1.5 goals for Ipswich. I didn't want to look at corners for this one because it feels like a game where, if Brighton get a couple early goals, which seems possible in this matchup, then I'm still not, sold on Ipswich just defending these Premier League level teams just yet. And if they get that early goal or two, I'm not sure the corners will come for them. So there's a single game parlay for you. Do you think they can do it? Brighton first half money line?
Interesting. Yeah. Brighton hosting is like, I think the first half money line seems like a pretty good layup for them. I feel like they usually come out pretty strong. Them at home, the over 2.5 does feel like a pretty strong bet. Like you said, over 2.5 goals for Brighton or over 2.5 goals in general?
For Brighton.
Yeah, that seems like a bit too musty of a bet, if you will.
It does feel like one of those. They started last season, I think like their first 3 matches was like 4-0 or something. It does kind of feel like it could be one of those games where they get to 3, they get to 4 kind of thing. But I feel like the first half money line is a little wiser bet, I guess is what I'll say.
You're not afraid of I forget how that City game, the Ipswich City game ended up. Like I know that City won obviously, but I know Ipswich went up 1-0 pretty early. Like any concerns about that?
Am I worried about Ipswich scoring on their only shot in the first 10 minutes? No, I'm not. I'm not worried about that.
Against the best team in football? I guess Real Madrid, but second best team in football.
No, that's not something that came into my thought process. Sorry to Sammy Smodics, Hutchinson, Liam Delop. Sorry to those guys, but sorry to Ben Johnson. I think he had the assist.
It's an incredible amount of shade.
Sorry, fellas. Sorry to the Tractor boys. We'll see if you get some more wins. I'll start backing the Tractor boys, but not yet.
Back the Tractor.
Not the Tractor. Next game we got Bournemouth are home against Chelsea. Bournemouth are plus 230 to win. Chelsea are plus 105. Looks like that has gone up a little bit here on Bournemouth to win. It used to be plus 215 before the break. Now they're plus 230. No real injury issues, though. I guess we do have Malo Gusto. He had a hamstring injury in the game just before the break. So that actually is a question who's actually going to play right back for him. We don't know entirely who's that going to be, but Renato Vega has started at right back in recent Europa Conference League matches. So he's an option, though they could do, I don't know, Moises over there. They could mix some things up. Disasi, something like that. But that is the one question, I guess, for Chelsea. So does that come into your thought process in betting this one?
Well, one could say not really. This Chelsea team, they have so many dang players that it's like, plug and play, and I think it's more of a systemic thing rather than like a player based thing. Like, is Malo Gusto like their best player? Probably not. He's a plug him in at right back, so a bit of a
He
concern
might
there.
be.
But yeah, I mean Chelsea have kind of like dominated this matchup as of late. I guess last couple seasons they won last season. I mean Bournemouth did take a point at home in the same matchup. Last season was 0-0, but other than that, Chelsea won the previous 3 matchups. So I hate taking a money line bet here because Bournemouth at home, Chelsea are an incredibly unreliable team. I don't know where to go with this from that perspective, but I do feel like I want to continue on my get right narrative here, and that's on a corners bet. I feel like corners are it's kind of our safe space, at least on the show. When you're feeling a little down and you're not quite sure where to go. I just go hammer corners because it feels like you can kind of predict that a little bit better than some of like the money lines or the overs or the unders. And so I went straight back to the well. This is my second corners bet of the show, but I got Bournemouth over 5.5 corners. I expect this to be a back and forth matchup. I think Bournemouth right now have 18 corners in 3 games, so kind of right where the odds makers have them at that over 5.5. It is, what did I say? It's I don't even know what I put down for odds here, but minus 110, I think.
Minus 110, yes.
And so like not great odds. Wish they were better, but it does feel pretty safe. I think Bournemouth. That how bad the recent results are interesting. They were very lucky to come away with 3 points against Everton last time out, which was, as a Liverpool fan, I was like, wow, that's sad, but also hilarious on how that ended up with Bournemouth scoring like 3 goals in the last like 10 minutes or so. Bournemouth lost to West Ham in the League Cup prior to that match, but they've got 2 draws, one against Tottenham and one against Newcastle. So it's kind of been a mixed bag for them to start the year. Chelsea, similar like lack of consistency and also a mixed bag. That's why I don't feel good about taking money line bets, and I'm going to hammer this over 5.5 corners at minus 110.
The minus 110 is kind of surprising here. Chelsea haven't allowed more than 5 corners all season, so it's kind of surprising you're just getting minus 110. But Bournemouth at home, yeah, I do feel like it might. We'll see. We've only had 3 matches here of Enzo Maresca here, and they do want to possess the ball more. So we'll see if that is actually affecting opponents' corners or not. We'll find out in the next few weeks here. It's been tough to get a read on Chelsea after their opening matches, Manchester City, then the 6-goal game against Wolverhampton, then 1-1 against Crystal Palace. It's been tough to get a read on them. So, but yeah, Bournemouth at home over 5.5 corners minus 110. I'm talking about another game on Saturday. Crystal Palace are home against Leicester City. These odds haven't really moved too much. Crystal Palace are minus 165 to win. Leicester are plus 450. The draw is plus 310. We still have some question about how the Crystal Palace back line is going to look. They added Nathaniel Chalobah from Chelsea on loan. They also have Lacroix from Wolfsburg as an option at center back. Those are kind of the questions. Meanwhile, Edouard is ineligible to play because he is on loan from Crystal Palace. So we're going to see Jamie Vardy get the start again. But, I wrote this match down as a game I was going to talk about earlier in the week. I had a bet written down, hadn't really looked at it just before the show. And I was like, I don't know if I want to take this bet. So I looked around a little bit, looked at the shot props. Eze is like minus 190 to have at least 4 shots or something. Just not great odds. I tried putting that together with a double chance for Crystal Palace. That was still like minus 130, so I wasn't going to go there. And then all the shot props for the other players, I kind of boosted a little too much. So I went to one of Chris's. He does this more than me. A goal band. I'm going
100% dude.
2 to 3. I don't know. I didn't do this last season. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but 2 to 3 goals scored at plus 100. It just feels like a 1-1, 2-1 type of game, either side. And backing up this bet is that the other 6 matches combined for these teams this season, there's been 2 or 3 goals scored in all of their matches. Not saying that means anything, but it just feels like a game where, okay, maybe we get 2-0 Crystal Palace, but it feels like both teams are in play here to get a goal, 2-1, 1-1. Just the hope is that it doesn't go to 2-2, it doesn't go to 3-1. So that's the hope of this. But I don't think that Crystal Palace are firing on all cylinders here in terms of scoring, and Leicester City, with Jamie Vardy, I'm not sure they're going to be firing all season unless Edouard really, really steps up for them. So I think this is a pretty reasonable here. 2 to 3 goals scored at plus 100. So do you approve of this, Chris?
Yeah, I love the Jamie Vardy reference. Is that like 35-year-old Jamie Vardy leading the line for a freshly promoted Leicester City? Like they needed to do more business, I feel like, to get an actual striker. I mean,
they got Edouard.
Yeah, but
no disrespect. Okay,
no disrespect to the legend that is Jamie Vardy. Because I have 2 Jamie Vardy jerseys, but that's just not going to cut it. I don't think that's going to keep you up. But yeah, I love this. I love this bet as an extremely safe play. Maybe too safe, but we'll see.
Yeah, just a really safe play until like Crystal Palace scores 3 goals, 3-2, 3 goals in the first half and finish 3-2 or something. It's like, yeah, pretty safe bet by me. But we're moving to Sunday. Chris's next match he's talking about. Wolverhampton are home against Newcastle, 2 teams who haven't looked great, but Newcastle have the points to show for some mediocre play, I'll say. Wolverhampton are plus 230 to win. They used to be plus 220. They're plus 230 to win. Newcastle are plus 110. The draw is plus 270. No real questions. Sam Johnstone took over in net days after signing with the team. Jose Sop, whatever. He went back home or something last week when he learned he lost a job, and now he's back. I don't know what's going on there. We haven't really heard about Lamina or Aït-Nouri in terms of their injuries yet. I think they're going to be fine, so that isn't much of a worry. But Newcastle still has Fabian Schär suspended, so that is the one thing there. And then Sandro Tonali, he actually has not started a league match for them yet, but he started, I think he started at least one match for Italy over the break. So getting, closer to 100% fit, Sandro Tonali, I feel, a nice boost for them is what I'll say. But do you think that matters, I guess, for your bet?
100%. I mean, Tonali and Guimaraes as their midfield. I mean, it was a year ago that they brought Tonali in for like 80 million pounds or something.
Do you want to change your bet if it matters so much?
I don't, but I'm just saying it helps them. Like, I mean, that's a pretty solid midfield, is at least on paper. Those 2 are some pretty sought after players. Tonali much more so before it turns out that he was betting on his team. Now we're just betting on his team. I'm actually going on the other end of the spectrum here. I got Wolverhampton double chance and over 2.5 goals. It's plus 145, so kind of some tasty odds there. Wolverhampton unbeaten at home against Newcastle in the last 6 matches. So that's really why I'm backing this bet. I originally looked at a lot of, honestly, I looked the Newcastle money line at plus 110 was kind of intriguing, but I'm like, got to go with the data here. Wolverhampton's been tough against Newcastle, not really tough this season. They lost 6-2 to Chelsea earlier. I don't really know what to take out of this team, but they always have this way of, like, even last season, having an incredibly disappointing result and then kind of bouncing back. They're just to become a mid-table side. So I feel like this is one where they might be able to take a point.
Yeah, I don't hate your bet though. I don't know if I go Wolves money line. I do think that as we get going, Wolves might be bottom 5 team. Maybe not might be. I think that I didn't take it, but I was looking at maybe Wolves relegation bets. Wolves relegation numbers. We'll see. You said they fell off a little bit last season. A lot of that was, after Pedro Neto was injured. I think Cunha missed a bunch of time too. So, after the best player's gone, now he's not even on their team. So I still have some doubts. They went to a more defensive look in that last game that they played. 1-1 against whoever. They moved Toti Gomez kind of on the left side, so they're playing basically 3 center backs, which was a little different from the first 2 games. So getting a little more defensive there, and I think that's kind of what they have to do. We'll see how they look. Again, I haven't been impressed by Newcastle, so I agree that Wolves double chance. You're taking the home team here. You're getting better odds on them, and then over 2.5 goals. I think both teams are in play to score. Newcastle without Fabian Schär and 2 other possible starters. They haven't been great defensively. Wolverhampton haven't been great defensively all season. So there you go. I like it though. I like it to an extent, is what I'll say. How about that?
Yeah, this is probably the one. If I had to rank my bets, I like the City bet, the number one. It's like basically how I've given them out. City bet, Bournemouth bet. This one is my 3rd favorite bet.
All right, 3rd favorite bet. There it is. Also, the final match of the game week. For some reason, it's also like the standalone on Sunday. North London Derby is before that. I don't know, some TV thing going on over there, but that's the next game we're talking about. Tottenham are home against Arsenal for the North London Derby. Plus 200, Tottenham are to win. And these odds have got a nice boost here. Arsenal are plus 130 to win. Draw is plus 260. So as I'm looking here, if you're watching on YouTube or Twitter, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Again, we're going to have a bunch of betting stuff coming up. We will have an MLS betting video as well coming out Friday. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. But so 3 days ago, I assume this is about when Odegaard injured his ankle. Maybe before, maybe not before that. So plus 245, Tottenham were to win. Right after that dropped to plus 205. Now it's plus 200 to win. So a lot of that, they had the Odegaard injury. You combine that with Declan Rice suspension, just massive absences here for Arsenal, especially going against Tottenham. So I guess talk about the effect of losing Odegaard, Rice. What would you say? 2 of their top 5 important players? Would you go 2 of their 3 most important
players? 2 of their 3
players?
best players in my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, Saka's number 1, Rice is probably 2, and then Odegaard. And you could go anywhere. I think Saka's the clear-cut number 1 best player.
Yeah, maybe throw like Saliba if you love defenders kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. That would be my top 4. I don't even know who else you'd put in there. Maybe it might be a bit of a hot take, but Havertz,
he's been playing well.
Yeah, he's been pretty. The gripe was always the goals, but he does what he does, and he's been a pretty key piece of the team. So I think that might be my top 5. Like Raya, I feel like really benefits from just playing behind a phenomenal back line. So you go Ben White. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say Raya already had maybe one of the saves of the season.
Yeah.
I think that must have been the opening week. I can't even remember what game it was, but something like that.
Second week, I think it was.
All right, yeah. So obviously some pretty massive things, and I was already kind of looking at some Tottenham bets before those injuries happened. And if you look back at last season, one of the only teams to actually kind of get under Arsenal's skin and kind of make things happen and actually, force the action a little bit, kind of mix things up was Tottenham. And while that may not result in wins, may not result in a ton of goals, that's kind of how Tottenham play or how they've been playing under Postecoglou. I think you can reasonably bet and get some decent plus odds with a pretty simple bet here. So I got a single game parlay. So in addition, I got Tottenham double chance. So, we already talked about the Arsenal injuries. Tottenham are at home. I think it's a great spot for Tottenham to at least get a point in this spot. You put that together with Tottenham over 3.5 corners. I think you already said they lead the league by however many corners.
They have 37 corners in 3 games.
There you go. 37 corners, 3 matches. And I think you look back at last season's games, Tottenham had, I think one match they had 8 corners. I don't know what they had in the other one, but they were actually getting corners against Arsenal. That's something that most teams couldn't do. So this seems, I don't want to say simple. I don't want to say safe, but it seems like we're getting great odds here because, the books changed a little bit in terms of once Odegaard went down. I don't know if they changed at all. Maybe a little bit once Rice went down, but you throw both those guys in. I think that the odds are still kind of haven't acclimated enough is what I'll say, adjusted enough. So I think we're getting decent value Tottenham double chance and just over 3.5 corners. That's not a lot of corners. Plus 125 odds on that. So do you agree with me? This just seems like a pretty good bet.
Yeah, I just, the corners bets, they have 37. I mean, they played Leicester and a few other Everton, they won 4-0. I forgot who the third team was, but so some pretty crap teams. But the corner over 3.5 seems decent, especially with Rice not controlling not controlling the midfield. I equate this to when City don't have Rodri in the lineup, at least last season. Whereas no, he's basically keeps the ball moving, keeps shields the back line throughout the match. And so I think, we might see a few more opportunities for Tottenham. I'm a little weary of the double chance. I think Arsenal's unbeaten in the last 4 against Tottenham. I guess Tottenham did get a draw, but that was at when Arsenal was at home last season. They lost 3-2 as well. So really, really interesting bet. But I think we started off the top of this bet with Odegaard's out. Rice, who's probably the second best holding midfielder in the league, is out as well. So they're missing two key players. I mean, Tottenham also missing probably 3 starters though. So a lot to think about with Solanke, Van de Ven, Basuma, also missing a couple of pieces.
Yeah. Looking at some of the numbers. So last season at Arsenal, 4 corners for Tottenham. That was a 2-2 result. But the home game, I mean, some of these numbers are kind of skewed because Arsenal, they were up 3-0 within the first 38 minutes. So it's okay, Arsenal didn't really have to do much the rest of the way. But I'll still read these numbers here. 2.42 XG, and they finished with 8 corners in that match. So, I mean, you could look at it this bet isn't, putting into account that Arsenal are going to go up 3 goals here in the first 38 minutes. But even in the first half, just taking the first half of last season, in this spot at Tottenham, Tottenham still had higher XG. They had more shots. They had 5 corners in the first half. That was with 3 goals in the first 38 minutes by Arsenal. So I don't know. I like it. That's all we got. That's 6 bets. That's 6 bets, right? We're done for the week. So how about it?
Yeah, we did big, quickness energy here.
Quickness energy. RotoWire.com/SoccerTrial 48-hour trial. If you're watching on YouTube or Twitter, I got the cheat sheet up here. We got 10 matches going on this week. And as I said just before, Champions League, we got lineups up for those as well. But anything else, but sneak out to you here. Liverpool at home, almost as big of a favorite as Manchester City. I do have some Liverpool bets in my content. I'll just say here, I kind of like the unders. One bet, I'll just give it right now. I'll say just take under 1.5 goals first half, under 3.5 goals full game, or under 4.5 goals full game. That's what I'll say for this Liverpool Nottingham Forest one. What do you think?
It's interesting. And under 3.5 or 4.5 or whatever you said is no brainer. I don't think they won 2-0, 2-0, and 3-0. Yeah, should be fun. I mean, about as maybe not the easiest opponent in the league, but a pretty easy opponent. They should be able to take all 3. I would hope, especially at home. So
wow, a lot of shade towards the tricky trees.
The tricky trees are bottom 5 side in the league, and I think we can be in agreement upon that.
they played well early in the season here. They also got JWP, James Ward-Prowse, coming into the squad. So never know. They had Alex Moreno. I don't know. I'm not sold. I before the season I said Nottingham Forest, they're going to be relegated, but I've turned the tide here. I think they did well in the transfer window. We'll see though. We'll see what they can do in this spot.
I mean, GWP's. I don't know anyone who dislikes that guy, but yeah, some decent business there.
All right, Chris, you have your quarterfinals for the kickball league, the KBL, the KBL. Oh, there we go. One kick wonders. All right, one kick wonders it is. So good luck to Chris in his quarterfinals. This was game week 4 in the Premier League. We'll be back next week. And, I don't know when we're talking next week because Champions League, we got 6 matches Tuesday, 6 matches Wednesday, 6 matches Thursday. Kind of throws a little wrench in the schedule. But, we talked during Europa League matches last season. So we'll figure it out going forward. You got anything else, Chris?
No, like you mentioned, I got a huge tilt tonight. Quarterfinals of the softcore kickball league out here in Seattle. It's been an interesting ride here, and this is my third season captaining the squad, and just want to see the best out of everyone tonight. And luckily we got one Pilsner down, and there might be a couple more.
Yeah, you definitely need a nice buzz when you start the kickball games.
If I don't come home with 3 for 4, maybe 4 or 5 RBIs, couple of runs, I'm gonna I'll think less of myself.
I'd be disappointed. We're actually going to include your stat line here in the graphic next week. So make sure to send that over to me. But you can find Chris at CHROwen8 on Twitter. I am at RotoZdroik. RotoWire Soccer is at RotoWire Soccer as well. Just go to rotowire.com/soccer. All that stuff will be there. Also, our YouTube channel, RotoWire Soccer. If you're watching this one, make sure to check out Corners and Wagers. Make sure to check out, what do we call it? Major League Bets, I think is what we're calling Major League Soccer Bets. So that is a new one going out to the people. So check that out as well. More betting content than ever before over at RotoWire. So that's what we're giving to the people. But Chris, thank you for joining me. We'll see everyone next week. Good luck on your bets.